to you a little bit about China. Can you all see this okay? Yeah, okay. So my name is Victoria Landa-Steinau. Some of you already know me. A little bit more about myself. I graduated from Judge Memorial in 2014. So what year are you two in school?
2019.
2019? Okay, so that means that you are sophomores? Juniors? Okay. So the seniors would have been freshmen when I graduated, so that's always fun. My favorite thing about Judge were the toga nights, the basketball games. Do you guys still do that? Dress up for the basketball games and have some school spirit? A little bit, kind of? Okay, enjoy it while it lasts, because you don't always have that. But when I was in high school, some things that I wish I would have known when I was all of your age were three main things. The first being, I wish I would have known the importance of language. So you all are required to take language classes anyway, and I know I kind of sat in those classes. I took Spanish when I was at Judge. I had taken that my entire elementary school and middle school, so it was pretty easy for me to take those Spanish courses. What I wish I would have done was take them a lot more seriously, because language is so important, especially when you begin traveling to other countries. So really taking the time to learn as much as you can in those language courses, especially because you already have to take them, so might as well. The second thing I wish I would have known is that the world is actually really small. When you first look at a map of the world, this is really small here, but it kind of looks daunting, like there's so much out there and it's kind of scary. But once you decide that you want to go somewhere, so for example, once I told some people that I wanted to go to China, all these people around you start popping up. And for example, maybe your old babysitter, this is a picture of a woman, by the way, if you can't see it, went to China once, and she still has some connections there. And maybe your old teacher went to China one time and still knows some things that you can go do while you're there. And maybe even maybe your mom's friend's coworker lives in China, so they can help you out when you get there. So as soon as you decide where you want to go and you vocalize that to the other people that you know, you might actually start learning a lot about China through those connections. So at first, the world seems really big and scary, but once you start vocalizing where you want to go, then you kind of start to see how small the world is and how many connections you already have there. The third thing I wish I would have known when I was in high school is that reflection equals opportunity. And what I mean by that is when you think about why you're doing what you're doing, it opens up more opportunities for you to continue doing what you're doing. So to give you a more tangible example, if you think about what do I want to gain from any kind of international exposure, let's say I want to go to China. Why do I want to go to China? Well, maybe I'm really interested in politics and the economy and a really different culture than my own. So because I know why I'm going to China, I'll have a much deeper experience when I'm there rather than just going to somewhere that all of your friends go just to go. Does that make sense, the difference? Okay. So those are three things I wish I would have known when I was your age. So you're already ahead of the game by being here. Okay, so why live abroad? There are two types of travel. There is living abroad and there is vacationing abroad. When you go on a vacation somewhere, you're usually staying in a nicer part of town and you're surrounded by people who have studied how to be nice to you, they've studied your culture, they probably know your language, so you have a much different experience than if you go live somewhere. So this is a quote from a study talking about students who go abroad. It says, "Study abroad is one of the best ways students can acquire global skills and open up personal and professional opportunities." So I know this has been a very, very long time, but when you graduate from college, people are looking for four main skills: verbal communication and written communication. Those two you'll develop no matter which college you go to, any of these colleges that you see on the flags. And then problem solving and let's see if there was one other one. I'll have to look at it. Critical thinking. So problem solving and critical thinking. Those two things you will also learn no matter where you go to college, but when you study abroad, you learn them at an exponential rate in a different way than you were if you were to stay in the United States. So let's say you're looking at your growth pattern and you grow like this when you go to college. Well, when you study abroad, you kind of grow like this. You're all over the place. So let's see how you can learn how to sharpen your skill of critical thinking through study abroad. These are some examples from my time in China. First, let's see, you might be exposed to some signs that don't really make sense. So this is an exact translation of Chinese to English. It says, mind the step, cottonal, I don't know how you would pronounce that. But we have to use our critical thinking to think, what is this sign trying to tell me? It's trying to tell you to be careful. So sometimes with the Chinese language, it's really hard to translate into English. So if you go to a country that's like that, you're going to have to sharpen that skill. Something else you might encounter are, whatever this is, some potatoes with wires attached to it. So this was a science fair project done by a Chinese high school student. And this was something I had never seen before, and they are taught their classes very differently than we're taught our classes here. So again, I was learning that critical thinking piece of what can I learn from this country and these students to take back to my home country. Okay, another thing, I saw this young man using 2 phones on the train, on the subway one day. I was like, what is he doing? So he's playing some sort of video game that I've never seen before. Maybe you've seen it before. And he flipped his phones around. And the longer I was in China, the more common this became. So there are actually quite a few students who have 2 iPhones. So again, that critical thinking piece of why would you ever need 2 iPhones and how is he using them differently than I would use my singular iPhone? Okay, and fourth, let's see, so in the United States, when it rains really heavily, we have these really great systems where the water kind of goes down the street and then disappears and we never see it again, so we don't have to think about it. Well, in China, they don't have that, so instead they hire government workers to have these tree-like brooms and sweep up all the water off the streets. Isn't that pretty incredible? It's just a lot different than what we're used to. So again, using that critical thinking of what are they doing and why are they doing that? I would have never thought about the way that we take care of rain unless I had been exposed to this. So the second skill that I mentioned was problem solving. So I'll quickly go through a couple things that you might have to do if you ever decide to go to a different country. One, in China, they have something called the Chinese firewall, meaning that 70% of the internet is inaccessible in China. So if you want to do something like FaceTime your friends and you're using an app that China does not allow into their country, you have to use something called a VPN, and that's what this is right here. So you download a VPN, and that allows you to circumvent the Chinese firewall, so you can access that internet that not everyone is allowed to access. So again, problem solving. I can't access Facebook. What do? I download a VPN, use that VPN so I can learn how to use Facebook while I'm in China. The second thing is, again, if they don't have access to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, then they created their own social media platform. So if you're meeting lots of Chinese people who you want to stay in touch with after you leave, I had to learn how to use their social media platform so I could stay in touch with them. So again, that problem solving. Okay, voting assistance. So you can't vote while you're in China. So I had to learn how to absentee vote and make sure my ballot got in the mail so I could still vote during the presidential elections. So again, learning how to solve those problems as they arise. Which voting is very important, so once you're 18, make sure you're voting. And then this was a problem that I encountered 3 times a day, every day. I would sit down at a restaurant with a menu in completely Chinese. So I would start, just randomly choosing some because, I don't know Chinese that well. So again, problem solving. Pretty quickly I learned which lines refer to which kinds of foods. So maybe meatball soup or ice cream and churros or an egg sandwich. One time I got really unlucky and I got some chicken feet. They eat chicken feet in China. I know, it's pretty crazy. That was not my best experience there.
Did you eat them?
I tried them. I did not finish them though. Okay, so what I just mentioned, problem solving and critical thinking, you'll develop those skills no matter where you decide to study abroad, if you so choose to. but I wanted to show you a video of why China specifically. Let's see if it works.